is up? What is up, YouTube boxing family? It's K-Rod here. I'm back at it with another good video for you guys today. And yeah, let's get right into it, guys. We have some really big news. I wanted to talk about the whole situation at hand with Jonathan La Bomba Gonzalez. For those of you that don't know who he is a 108-pound champion, if I'm not mistaken, that fights at junior flyweight. Well, yeah, I think light flyweight or junior flyweight, that's what I call it. But Jonathan Gonzalez, for those of you that don't know him, he is a Puerto Rican WBO champion. He's technically from New York City, but I guess if he wants to put himself as like a dual, ethnic, I guess, resident from both places, I mean, by all means, go for it. So yeah, let's get right into it. He'll be unifying for 3 belts up against some guy that I forgot. He's going to be unifying against oh wow, he actually recently fought not too long ago. Nice, good for him. Nice, congratulations. But yeah, he will be unifying against this guy, Kenshiro Teruji. He is the IBF, well, WBA and WBC light flyweight champion, and basically he will be unifying for the path to become undisputed, hopefully in the 4-belt era, I guess. Otherwise, I don't really care about that. I mean, the 4-belt era doesn't really mean shit, but undisputed definitely is a good prize to have for boxing. If sanctioned bodies were never to be a thing, then yeah, by all means, good job for him. Yeah, but this is a legacy-defining fight. This is going to be this is going to be a very good fight. This opponent that he has in front of him, I've seen him a couple times, but he's an okay fighter. He knocked out Kyoguchi. He used to be the champion at one point with his WBC title. No, he had the WBA, so he unified with Kenshiro Tajaki with the WBC title that he had. So Kenshiro is now unified, so he wants to go for undisputed with Jonathan Gonzalez. And you know what? I'm actually really happy for it, because I'm hoping Pro Box, they could bring that fight maybe out to Puerto Rico, because I think that is the right thing to do. As far as who has the IBF, I think it's this guy, this Cuban dude. No, he doesn't. The IBF. Who has the IBF? Oh, not Singa. Yeah. Not Singa. He holds the IBF title. Got it. Yeah. So not Singa, the special one. He holds the IBF title. Yeah. So this is actually gonna be a good road to undisputed, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, because not only because that these two guys are going to make history, but I think the greatest thing about what Jonathan is doing right now, he's in such a great position to definitely shake up the division. And I think him and Teruji or Kenshiro, it will definitely be maybe a very difficult fight. I don't know how the styles will definitely come together. But I think when I look at this fight, I think Jonathan will have the whatchamacallit. He'll have the athleticism advantage over Kenshiro, and I think he does have the. I think both of these guys are equal in power. Kenshiro, he's been stopped before. Jonathan, he's been stopped before. So it's not like either guy is very vulnerable, is less vulnerable to getting stopped. Jonathan, he's been stopped 3 times out of all 3 of his losses. He lost to Kosei Tanaka, who was an absolute lion back in his day. Obviously, he got slept by Kazuto Ioka, and look at what he's done. He's been fighting, decent level opposition. I mean, like, this is like why, like, I personally don't really respect, let the lighter weight divisions, because the only reason why they are ever known in their division is because they're technically left with no choice but to fight, the tougher opposition names, because most of the division is heavily, how should I say, most of the lighter weight divisions are heavily conquered by Japanese level talent. So I don't think those lighter weight divisions, if they were to convert over to higher weight divisions like 126 and higher, I don't think a lot of these guys would really survive. But I think that the reason why, these divisions are ever talked about is mainly because of people not wanting to, really bring up anything like about it. I think honestly, when it comes to what's being put out, by the media about the lighter weight divisions, they don't ever really be honest about, the situation at hand. And I think, like, the only reason why these lighter weight divisions are ever to be talked about is mainly due to people just saying what they have to say, and they just move forward with, what they believe. How I see this matchup going, I think honestly, when it comes to this matchup, I think Jonathan Gonzalez, he will be the victor in this potential matchup. But it's not going to be easy, because either guy can easily screw this up and they could easily get slept. Or I think it'll go to the cards. Not too sure if this is going to be at... oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah, not too sure if this is going to be put on Pro Box. But I mean, if he is exclusively signed to Pro Box, then I'm pretty sure Pro Box, they could very well let the money together to help out John. And I think Jonathan can very well get the fight brought over to Puerto Rico. I think it only makes sense. Obviously, maybe to Kenshiro's, point of view, he obviously doesn't want to do that because he has 2 belts, so therefore he could be the A side over Johnny. So if it has to be in Japan, then by all means go for it. I mean, Jonathan's gonna have like a great experience of potentially, being unified, and I hope he does. I think his style is definitely all wrong for Kenshiro, Teruji, and I think how this fight will very well go down is just that there's going to be a lot of trades in this matchup where I don't know who would really look at trying to go first. But I think Jonathan, he's way better as like a boxer than Kenshiro. I think Kenshiro only looks for like that big shot for him to value himself to be the victor out of the exchanges. But I'm never really too surprised with what I could see out of Kenshiro. I mean, he's a good fighter, but with Jonathan's ability to make adjustments with his jab and taking away the offensive pressure that some fighters like to do to him, I think Jonathan has proven that ever since he's been KO'd, which has been a long time ago, to Kosei Tanaka, and then he lost to Gilbert Alvarez, and then he lost to Giovanni Segura. I mean, these are all really good fighters, by the way. These aren't bums. He's lost to, heavy loaded opposition. And, honestly, you can't really disrespect anything that these fighters do, because, your greatest losses end up becoming like the greatest, how should I say? Your greatest losses really end up becoming like the greatest of victories in defeat. And I think that's like the biggest problem. People don't really talk about that, and I think that's really like the biggest problem in boxing. Like, people really don't want to be honest about their fighter having to be beatable. But it's like, just because like your guy loses does not mean it's like the end of the world. And I don't think so. I think whenever like your fighter does lose, you actually end up doing better things for your career. And I don't know, I just think, how I see it, if I was like a fighter and I have been stopped in the past, that does not mean, like the fighter themselves are, how should I say, like shot as a fighter. I mean, it depends on how bad your KOs are, and if you're not improving with like better defense and better mechanics to limit the amount of damage that you've gotten throughout your biggest fights, then I think that's what makes like the fight, game a lot more harder for you to just come right back, into it. And I mean, I'm never too, surprised out of it because, like it's very difficult to come back from a knockout. And I think depending on how fighters really respond to it, the mental stage is usually like the hardest one. And I think that's really how people kind of, come out of what their way to, make those bigger like adjustments. And depending on what they do in the future, it's really dependent on how the fighter comes about to be successful in their comeback, because obviously being stopped is never fun for any fighter. But I think in the case of Jonathan Gonzalez, knowing that he's like the champion and he's proving himself to be the champion, yeah, you know what, like getting knocked out is not something that any fighter of his caliber is really on his mind for. But you should always walk out like to me personally, like you should always watch out for the potential losses that could happen to you. And it's not to say that you can't be knocked out one day, because that one big punch could really change you in a fight depending on your mental fortitude. I mean, for me at least, like, I've been pinned before in wrestling, and wrestling is probably one of the dangerous sports next to boxing, in terms of combat sports, when you rank them. But I just think based off of what I've seen, from wrestling, where when you do get brutally pinned, it's not easy to go through that type of stage, because there's just so much that you have to think about when you get in there. And I mean, it's just very difficult because depending on what you have to do of being in that stage, it's just very hard and very challenging to go through the stage of trying to rebuild as a combat athlete. And I think for boxing, that's really high tier in terms of you trying to get back in there, because everybody else is getting better. So if you take a crap load of time off, I mean, there's no problem in doing that. But once you lose in boxing, it's very hard for you to come right back into it, because for one, not a lot of people know your situation coming back, and two, the outside life can definitely change you as a fighter. And who knows, if you come back stronger and you start dominating people, and your durability as a fighter has been better, where you're not taking as many blows. Because I think the reason to people getting knocked out in boxing is because of the defensive flaws that certain fighters are just naturally inherited with. Because it's like some people just have like those bad habits coming into a fight where they're just not really how should I say, they're not as consistent to really do the things that they need to do. And I mean, that's just me personally, just basically speaking out of how I see the mental fortitude around fighters, because I have trained in gyms before, and I've seen like some fighters just not think about what they could do to be better as a potential opponent for somebody else. But I don't know, like I guess in boxing, like it's all 90% mental and 10% physical. So I mean, to me at least, everything that you do outside of the ring really plays like a huge part out of what you could potentially do in the future. So I mean, to me at least, I don't really think too much about it. I just try to do what I have to do, and just keep it moving. As far as Jonathan's fight, how I see this fight going, I think Jonathan will definitely edge a good decision over Kenshiro, because Kenshiro, he's not really known to box too much. I will definitely take a look at more out of his style, but I just don't think that style is going to be Jonathan, who's going to come in definitely pure boxing more than trying to bang it out with Kenshiro. So I think with Kenshiro, he definitely has a lot more flaws compared to Jonathan. I just think with Jonathan, when it comes to his defensive lapses himself, which he's somewhat known to have them, but it's like he's not going to go in there being stupid. And I think like the only time where I've actually been a little bit concerned was just that when he fought that Barriga guy, he was fighting extremely dirty, and Barriga was not really, being smart in that fight. He was just wanting to just bang it out with him so bad, and he wasn't able to brutalize Jonathan to the point where Jonathan, he was doing a good job outboxing him, but once it heads into the late game, that's where things get a little bit difficult, where he's not able to prioritize himself as a fighter, and that's what made the fight a little bit more harder to tell if Jonathan was actually getting outclassed or he just had a very good night, but he looked a little bit shaky. And I mean, that happens to any fighter that goes back in there, because once Jonathan won the title from Elwin Soto, he did take some time off, so it wasn't like he was really coming in there to lose, because it's hard to defend your belt after you've been in like a really, really tough war with somebody. So I'm not too sure. I think Jonathan had a good mindset coming into the fight, and it's not like he's a bad fighter. He has a lot of skill. It's just, how will you, return back, will be the bigger question. When John was trying so hard to put himself in a better position to be successful, I think whenever he puts himself in those positions where it may seem like he might get hurt, but it's like, he's really just trying to prove like a point to somebody that shouldn't really need to be there. Like, I think he should just focus on pure boxing. Like, that's his style. He doesn't really have how should I say? He doesn't have the ability to really make a fight a dog fight, and I think it's only because that his style does not work that way. He's way more successful by keeping it to the mid-range or outside principle of him just wanting to box you, and I think that's what makes him such a good fighter, because he has so much ability with what he does as a fighter to be successful. So I mean, Jonathan Gonzalez will very well decision Kenshiro if this fight ever goes past 6, because of the reason why I say that is because if he does this thing and he tires out Kenshiro, I think what's going to happen is that Kenshiro, he's going to lose a lot of focus, and he's just going to be breaking for the fences of him just being successful. So I'm not too sure of how I would seal up the fight, but I just think based off of what I'm seeing now, it's just like one of those fights where we really don't know where things will go. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh! Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was playing, some League of Legends, my peoples. But, yeah, I mean, either way, there's plenty of great opportunities for Jonathan, and I think this fight will very well be a very heavily competitive fight, but it just really depends on where the fight goes, honestly. As far as how I see it, I think Kenshiro, his only best ability is to try stopping Jonathan, but after that, if he's not able to stop him, I could very well see Jonathan very well decision him, because I mean, if he ever does knock out Kenshiro, that's going to be a very, very good, very, very good win. It's just at what point of the fight do we really see, let the best out of him? And that's just going to make me think that, this fight could very well be, heavily competitive. But yeah, that's pretty much it. let me know how you guys see this matchup. Do you think this matchup is going to be, one of these fights where we don't know how things are going to go? And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And yeah, guys, thank you guys for watching, and be sure to like, rate, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys very, very soon. So yeah, yep. Thank you guys. Bye.